The NBA season has started and James Harden is still on the Houston Rockets, but potentially not for long as he continues to increase the amount of teams he would like to be traded to. And apparently, the Toronto Raptors are one of the teams who are pursuing him very heavily. So, should the Raptors actually make this trade for James Harden? Let's get into it. Welcome to Amateur Sports, where we give you NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors at least 4 days a week. Sometimes we do videos just like this where we go through some news related to the Raptors and discuss it. Sometimes there's other videos where we talk about games in the Raptors roundup recaps of games like the San Antonio Spurs game that we did a roundup for yesterday, and we will do for the Philadelphia 76ers games. If you like what you see and want more of myself talking about the Toronto Raptors in this vlog or video podcast style upload, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and show your support to the channel and join the movement as we continue to push on. Thank you so much to everybody who has already hit that subscribe button, join the movement, and genuinely appreciates the content. I'm very grateful for everybody involved in this great community we have built up. But today we are talking about James Harden. Yes, James Harden is still on the mind for Toronto Raptors fans. And earlier in the week, we learned that the Raptors decided that they are going to seriously pursue James Harden in trade talks because he continues to want out of Houston, and the Houston Rockets continue to not trade him and set his value very high. And in spite, basically, of Houston, in the Rockets' first game of the season that James Harden featured in, he put up 44 points and 17 assists. And yeah, definitely did that in spite of the Houston Rockets. He wants out. He does not want to be there. And I think he's making a statement here. He's showing everybody in the league that despite whatever he brings off court, despite any of those problems, he still gets it done. 44 points and 17 rebounds in game one. Yeah, I think you can handle off-court tendencies if he's going to put up 40-point stat lines like that. But is this the right piece for the Toronto Raptors to move forward, to push on, to be a better team? Well, I mean, obviously having James Harden is a pretty good thing. I mean, James Harden is a generational talent. He's an absolute scoring machine. Gets a ton of assists. He's a perennial MVP candidate. And of course, James Harden is a guy you'd like to have on your team. But the problem is, you can't just have James Harden. You got to give up stuff to get him. So should the Raptors be the team to give up all these things to bring James Harden in? So we'll assess kind of what we would have to trade in order to get James Harden. Then we will assess the fit of James Harden on the Toronto Raptors. So let's get into what we would likely have to trade for James Harden. Now, the 76ers have been big pursuers of James Harden. I think that the best two suitors for James Harden are the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the Brooklyn Nets would have to give up a lot of their depth, a lot of their young guys in order to acquire James Harden. And personally, I'm not really convinced that that would be worth giving up all that depth just to have KD, James Harden, and Kyrie as your starting players. Now, obviously, that would be an absolutely mental starting five to have those three guys involved. But do I think that the Brooklyn Nets should trade away any sort of future that they have? Do I think they should trade away all their depth in order to get that? I don't know. The 76ers, however, I think, your window is going to start to close on having Embiid and Ben Simmons. And I think that the team is in place this year for the 76ers to trade Ben Simmons for James Harden. That would make that team a huge threat in the Eastern Conference. That would make them championship candidates, in my opinion. So Philadelphia, best equipped. But the asking price from the Houston Rockets from Philadelphia has been Ben Simmons and 3 first-round picks, and the 76ers are trying to make that 2, I believe. The Rockets want those 3. So if we take that valuation, bring it to the Toronto Raptors, what are we realistically looking at? Well, Pascal Siakam has to be involved in this trade. I cannot see a scenario where the Houston Rockets will let this trade happen without Pascal Siakam. And, in past times, that has been the roadblock for Masai Ujiri and the Raptors front office. They are unwilling to part with Pascal Siakam in these trade negotiations. We almost landed Paul George when Kawhi Leonard wanted to pick a new team, decided to pick the Clippers because they acquired Paul George. But we did not acquire Paul George because simply they were asking for too much. They were asking for Pascal Siakam. So we bring to modern day. Is that still the case? We don't know. If the Rockets were to trade Harden to us. I think that they're going to ask Siakam and 3 firsts. I think it's not outlandish to say that we can probably place Pascal Siakam and Ben Simmons within similar tiers in, the NBA pyramid of players, how good these players are. I think Siakam and Ben Simmons are in similar tiers, so I think we can value them similarly. So probably Siakam and 3 firsts. Now, if it was a few weeks ago, the Rockets are probably looking at getting Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby involved in this trade. Both of them and probably 2 firsts, maybe 1 and a second. But now OG Anunoby's on that rookie contract extension. So he's extended 4 years. He signed that $72 million over 4 years. When he signed that, I saw Rockets fans really upset because that basically took OG Anunoby out of any sort of trade discussions because of contract stuff. If you get Pascal Siakam, his max contract, and you already have John Wall on that super, super max contract, can't really pick up any more money. You're really tight on your salary. So looking at Pascal Siakam and 3 firsts. Now, if that's the valuation for James Harden, I'm good. James Harden would be a perennial MVP candidate, and I think that would continue in the Eastern Conference, if not get better. But Pascal Siakam just started his max contract, and there's a lot of time for him to figure out his personal situation where, on the court that is, where he's not quite living up to that right now. The playoffs in the bubble, he struggled, we know that, and I think he's still finding his feet this NBA season, but I have complete faith that Pascal Siakam will sort everything out at some point over the next 5 to 10 games. I think he just needs to get in rhythm, get his feet under him. The chemistry of the Toronto Raptors needs to find itself again. The championship level defense needs to find itself again. And when that happens, things will start to fall into place. And I think that Pascal Siakam's all-star ability will also follow suit. So giving away Siakam and 3 firsts for James Harden for 3 years, where he's going to be making $47 million in his last season on the contract, where he's going to be 33 years old now, I think that's too much. I just think that's too much. I don't want to part with that much to get James Harden. If we're talking Pascal Siakam and 2 firsts, then we're kind of talking. We got a discussion to him because James Harden, MVP tier. Is Pascal Siakam on the MVP tier? No. Can Pascal Siakam get to that MVP tier? My confidence in him getting to that tier is starting to dwindle. It is starting to fade off. So can the Raptors live without 2 future first-round picks? I mean, they've done it in the past. How many times have they not had their first-round pick in the process of building that championship team up, especially getting Marc Gasol in that Jonas Valanciunas trade where he also traded a first-round pick? The Raptors can certainly live without first-round picks. And, 3 I think is too much. Just how long do you have to manage that Harden trade? How long in the future do you have to think, oh my God, we traded all that for Harden? But 2, I think is manageable. Now, it's easy for me to sit here and say Siakam and 2 firsts seems to make a bit of sense, but do the Houston Rockets want to part with that? Well, I think that the valuation of Harden has to decrease over time. I mean, the more and more the frustration builds with Harden, I think the more eager the Houston Rockets become to trade him, and therefore they trade him for less than they wanted before. But I think if anybody's going to snap that up, I think it will be the 76ers, because I think Ben Simmons is the best piece for that team. And now that they have John Wall, maybe Siakam might be the complementary player in a pick and roll situation with John Wall, but I think Ben Simmons is a guy who can control the offense, run the offense, would be the better suited piece for the Houston Rockets. Not that they wouldn't want Pascal Siakam. I just think Ben Simmons is best suited for that. And I think the 76ers are more willing to make this trade, where the Raptors, who are going to have a ton of cap space next summer, are going to wait it out a little bit. Wait it out. If the right deal comes in play, then the Raptors will take advantage. Now we move on to James Harden's fit with the Toronto Raptors. Now offensively, absolutely, that guy can run an offense 100% in the pick and roll. James Harden is a phenomenal scorer, one of the best, if not the best of all time. I wouldn't put him quite at the best, but I think we're looking at a top 5 scorer of all time in the NBA. I'm putting KD above James Harden, but still, a phenomenal scorer in James Harden, an MVP candidate because of what he brings on offense. Underrated part of his game. I don't know if it's underrated, but people don't really talk about his assist totals, because this guy was an assist champ one year, can get to that 10 assist plateau, if you give him the right system in play. But if he's just a scoring machine, then obviously that changes. Last 2 years, about 8 assists per game, 7.5 assists per game. So that's a lot of points that he's setting up for other guys, let alone himself scoring comfortably above 30 points per game. On offense, yeah, he brings a lot. On defense, I think that he's gotten better at defense. There used to be a lot of jokes about how bad he was on defense. I don't think he's a great defender, but I think he's good enough to play in a Toronto Raptors system of basketball. As far as the defense goes, playing at the top, the Raptors do well with their guards, especially if you have great defensive guards like a Fred VanVleet and like a Kyle Lowry sitting beside James Harden in that scenario. So I think that would work out. He would fit within the team in terms of what he brings, but would he be willing to part with, his ball dominant style where he's got the ball constantly? He runs the pick and rolls almost every play. Would he be able to switch into a Nick Nurse style of basketball? Because the off-court things would play a part in this decision, because the Toronto Raptors have such this great cohesion of a unit, this great chemistry. That's what they build off of. That's what they won their championship off of. That's why they were the second best team in the NBA in terms of win-loss last season. So would James Harden be able to fit into that tight-knit unit that the Raptors possess on offense and on defense? Would he be able to run that system on offense? Would he be able to be a part of that system on defense? These are big question marks for a guy you're going to trade Pascal Siakam and potentially 2 to 3 first-round picks for. Is that worth it? You really have to consider that. And also, when you consider the fact that we're a small team already, can we afford to lose another big in Pascal Siakam to get James Harden? Where are you going to pick up the pieces? Are you going to trade other guys like Norman Powell in order to get another power forward within the team? Lots of things to consider. I think that Philadelphia is the smartest move to make for James Harden, but the Raptors, they want to be involved. There's a lot of tinkering they need to do, and they need to understand what James Harden brings to you on, and you have to understand what he brings to you off the court, because those off-court things could hurt the Toronto Raptors in terms of their chemistry. Now, maybe playing for a team who's got their path straight right now, like the Toronto Raptors, maybe that would make a little more sense for James Harden, make him a little more comfortable. But why do you have to kind of walk on eggshells around this guy just to bring him in? Why do you have to do all these little things to make him happy? For me, that's torture. I don't want to do that, especially after trading so much to get him. I don't want to completely contort how I play the game just to fit this guy, just to make this guy happy. He's getting paid $40 million. Like, this guy, what you want him to do is be a basketball machine. Now, obviously, the personal effects of the game need to be taken into consideration. You need to worry about people, basketball players as people. But in this case, James Harden, I feel like you kind of have to baby him in some scenarios, and I'm just not happy doing that with my team. I remember about a month ago we talked about James Harden, and I said that I personally wouldn't want to trade that much for James Harden, therefore don't want him on the team, and it seemed like the very popular opinion was the same thing. Now that we've seen the Raptors start 0-2, I feel like there's going to be a lot more panic mode, so potentially more people are going to start to open up to James Harden. Now, I'm open to trading him if it is the right deal, and Masai Ujiri can find a deal that would make the Raptors a better team. Don't just go trade for James Harden for the sake of it. Let's make sure we can still put out a competitive team around him and make a smart basketball decision here. So to end off, I think that James Harden's valuation is Siakam and 2 firsts. Maybe you throw a sweetener in there, but I think that's about his valuation. Would I make that trade for James Harden? I would definitely consider it, but I don't think he quite fits into this chemistry-based system that the Raptors have built. So for me, I think it's a big gamble trading for James Harden, especially on that money, especially trading Pascal Siakam, who has 4 years left, just started that max contract. I think that for sure this would be a gamble. Therefore, the amount that I'm paying, I'm out of this one. I would not make this trade for James Harden. If the Raptors do try to make this trade, I understand why they're doing it. I just hope they get a good deal out of it. Bottom line is, I'm not the one making these decisions. It's Masai Ujiri, it's the front office, and I have full faith in them to make the right decisions for the betterment of the franchise. So now it's up to you guys. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions on these James Harden to Toronto rumors. Do you think that the Toronto Raptors should trade for James Harden? And what do you think his value is? Do you think as well that it is Pascal Siakam and 2 firsts? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. But that wraps up from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, I really appreciate it. Please like the video if you like, and subscribe to Amateur Sports for more content just like this. Thank you so much for all the great support coming in. We just hit 1,400 subscribers. I am very much looking forward to hit that 1,500 and beyond to 2,000. I know we can do it in the next little while, but thank you so much for all the support that has come in. I am very grateful for each and every one of you who clicks on the videos. At the end of the day, I believe what I say. If you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time for another video.